My name is Misty Klusner. I am a digital innovation TOSA at Campbell Union School District down in the South Bay area. This is my first year out of the classroom. Before that, I've taught 4th grade through 8th grade, both multiple subject regular classroom and also theater for middle school. So I'm really big about getting kids creating. They consume a lot of content in their life, and I want them to start creating that content. So this is I've kind of hopped on the platform of digital storytelling. Storytelling doesn't mean it has to be a fictional, made-up, imaginative piece. You can take informational text, you can take math, and you can create a narrative around it, and the minute you put a narrative around it, it is engaging, it is interesting, and kids have a lot more fun with it, and you're gonna enjoy grading it a lot more. So. With that, I just want to just show you like my reasons for storytelling, and then I'm going to show you different tools you can use. Again, I'm going to go really fast because I want you guys to have time to play since it's a short time. All right. So normally when I do this, I like to play a podcast to start you with the idea of storytelling. I'm not going to do that, but in the notes of this slide, there is a link to this particular episode that I love, and it's all about how the character of Superman ends up fighting Nazis and exposing like through the radio TV show. And Mike Rowe, if you like podcasts, he is a fabulous storyteller. He gets nonfiction stories and creates this beautiful narrative with them. They're about 8 minutes long. It's all audio. There's no visuals that go with it, and it's just amazing. So if you ever want a good example of storytelling for your students, I highly recommend his podcast. Listen to them first. Some are kid appropriate, some are not. So the idea is we want our kids to be creators of content, right? We don't want them to just consume. If they're gonna have screen time, let's have them adding to the world and creating things to share their voice, their passion, their knowledge with the world, instead of just listening to what other people are telling them. Let's make them active, not passive, and also giving them ownership, right? A lot of talk about student voice in the world. Empower your kids. Have them take ownership of what they're creating and put it out there and be proud of it versus just saying, oh, here's my worksheet with my answers. We also want to give our students voice and choice, right? We're trying to really give them a chance to find what works best for them, personalize that learning. So technology, one of the things I love about it is that it does give us a chance to provide different choices for every student and a way for them to get those voices out, right? If you have a shy kid, you can just do audio. You don't have to have their face there. They don't have to do it in front of people. If you have your extroverted students, they can be creating actual films and video type of broadcasting things where they're out there in the spotlight. And also gives them a lot of tools. There's many different things that you can use just with that one computer or that one iPad. You don't need to have one size fits all with everyone here. I also love it because we really want our kids to reach an authentic audience, right? When they do it for the teacher, it's good enough, right? What do I have to do to get an A? But if it's for the real world, they care. If their friends are gonna see this, they care. If it's gonna go out to a public audience, like a blog or something like that, or a class website, they really care. And so they make sure it's good, period. And we also want them to use those 4 C's, right? Communication, collaboration, creativity, and critical thinking, right? We've been teaching in the 21st century now for 17 years. We have 21st century students. It's time we taught like it. And we want to be able to give them these skills. So no matter what job they have in the future, they're going to need these skills. So by doing digital storytelling, you're already incorporating all of those into that piece, right? They have to communicate. That's the whole storytelling piece. They have to communicate with their group members and collaborate with them. They're going to have to think critically about the best platform, the best way to deliver that story. And if it's an informational text, they're going to really have to think about, how do I turn this into a story? How do I create a narrative out of this? And so that's what I love about storytelling. 4 C's, they fit in perfectly together. So these are my tools, and I'm going to go pretty quickly. So for audio. Audio, you just voice only, right? No face. It's perfect for your shy kids. It's a perfect way to get students to start. If you want kids working on fluency, working on pronunciation, foreign language classes, this is also great. Audio is a great thing. Basic tools. Vocaroo is awesome. It's free, and kids don't have to sign on. They don't have to create an account. So you don't have to worry about any privacy or COPPA issues. Vocaroo, and that is all hyperlinks. So on my slideshow, those are all hyperlinks that will take you to that site, but it's just vocaroo.com. And when you go, it literally just says, start recording. You hit record, you start talking. When you're done, you stop, and it gives you a link. And that link you can share out with your audio recording. Nothing is compiled or collected on the person. The link, I believe that the audio does go away after 6 months though. So if you want it to be something that lasts longer, you can download it as an audio file and have a permanent file on your computer. But if it only needs to last for 6 months, it's a great way to have them start practicing on the recording, and then they just have to share that link out. Another tool is Clip It. Clip It is you can either do it where it's like Vocaroo, where it doesn't collect any information. It just takes, you just get a hyperlink and you share it. If you want your students to create an account, it doesn't follow, they have to be 13 or over to create their own personal account. Or you could create a class account, because there is stuff that gets shared with their entire audience there. But if you create an account, then it will save it on their server as well, which is nice, so then it's there forever and it's easy to find. Everyone has one of these, yeah. The voice app on this is fabulous. Using this or having your kids use this is wonderful. So using just the voice memo app on your phone is a great way to just record audio quickly. And Flipgrid. Anyone here played with Flipgrid yet? Flipgrid Fever? Yeah. All right, so it's a great way. If your kids don't want to be in the shot, I've seen people where they actually have, like, they just hold up something in front of their face. Maybe they hold up a picture that they drew or something that goes with what they're talking about so that the child's face isn't shown. If your child is feeling comfortable enough to have their face in the shot, then it does record them. But what's nice is then you can actually give feedback to that. You can really have them working on, expression. I like to do it and have them make voices, because watching what their faces do when they make voices is really entertaining. So those are just plain audio tools. And again, you're only going to play like 1 or 2 tools today, but this is here for you to play in the future. If you want to start getting a little fancier, I have seen, so Ryan O'Donnell from CapCUE, he made this awesome project where he actually started making comic books using Google Slides. And so what's great is then if you really want to filter images, there's an app that comes on your phone called Prisma, and it does art filters on photos, and so you can actually filter them. And so I actually made an example. I'll show it with you guys really quick. So I took my dogs on their poop walk and decided to document their journey because I have the pickiest poopers ever. And so it's Webster and Murphy. And so what I did is these are all pictures, and then I used the app on my phone to filter them, to do like a style. Even if you don't have the filter, you can still put photos in, right? So having your students stage photos either with themselves or with objects. And then from there, they use those photos to tell a story. And then on Google Slides, they have a lot of things where you can really play along with how you can layer images. You can do different word fonts. And they have speech bubbles that you can start to put in. So, right, we go on, they get very excited every time their leash comes out. They're also very picky. There's never the right plant to poop on. And so all I did is I started adding in these little bubbles, right, to kind of show the thought process going behind. But, I mean, I just made a story, right, from something as mundane as my dogs going for their walk every day. So thinking about how your students could maybe do that with stories they've written, how they could do that maybe with a nonfiction article they've read, how do they create a narrative out of that, and then that critical thinking piece, right, where they have to then think, how would I stage this as a photo? How would I create this with my, with what I have here? I've seen kids create it with Lego figures. It's really cool, and they can do something small. If they have green screen, they can use a green screen then to change the background of it. And Ryan O'Donnell has a blog post on how he went about the process and created it, so that's a great resource if you want to get a little more in depth on that. So that's the Prisma app. That's a link to the App Store if you want to play around with it. It's super fun. It's super addicting. You're warned. And on Google Slides, you can also do masks and you can do filters. So you can actually cut pictures out to make them circles or squares or call-outs, and you can change the color of images. So you can start to colorize things, make them transparent, not transparent. And if you want to learn more, that's a link to more, or else I can show you later like some more details on how to play around with that. And then anyone here ever played with Adobe Spark? So Adobe Spark is another fabulous tool. It's super easy to use, super kid-friendly. Again, they have to be 13 or older to make their own account. But what a lot of teachers will do is they'll make their class account and then have their kids create their projects within that. So it's great, but it's a great scrolling video. There's a bunch of different stuff on there, but you can do a scrolling video feed. You can do scrolling images, kind of depending on what you want your kids to do. So it's another great resource for them to play around with that. So those are kind of like my image tools that I always go to with storytelling. And usually what I do is I'll teach kids how to do like one tool, and then I'll teach them how to do another tool, and then eventually we work our way where they can actually choose from a menu. But I don't try to throw all of this at them at once, because then they get overwhelmed and they have no idea what to do. If you do screen capture, where you actually do like, where you record what's on your screen, you can actually do a lot with that. So screen capture, you can have students make a flip book, where they make each slide on Google Slides would be a still, right? You remember when you used to draw in the little corners of your notebooks and you flip it and you get a little animation? You can make that with Google Slides, right, where it just changes a little bit each time. Then they screen record it, and they can do their voiceover as they go through their slides and tell their story. So it's pretty cool. and that's really fun to do. And then, so these are the two apps that are available. So for Android, Screencastify is wonderful. On Chromebooks, it's an extension. It doesn't collect data on kids, so you can use it with students. For Mac is QuickTime. And I haven't played around with it yet, but from what I understand, the new OS for iPads and iPhones now has a screen capture on it. So even iPads should have it available now. But screen capture can be very powerful, and you can take advantage of it a lot. You just kind of have to call it app smashing, kind of mush it with another app to get the visual part going with it. Actual stop motion is pretty fun. So you can actually animate on Google Photos. So all your students have access to Google Photos if they have a Google Drive, and you can actually create an animation from those. So again, having them stage the photos, or I've had them drawn out step by step. Like, so for this one that I had up there, I literally just drew a step each time. And then when you put all the photos together, Google automatically animates it for you and gives you a little GIF of it. You can also stop motion on Google Slides. And what's cool with Google Slides is when you go onto it, on Google Slides, you go and you can go File. And when you go to Publish to Web, it'll publish it to the web, but you can choose how fast the slides play. So you can choose if there's a slide a second. You can choose if there's a slide every 2 seconds. And then what happens is it'll autoplay when people go to that website, and it'll start telling you the story. So I decided to do one on the digestive system. But again, I was trying to think, how could I make this be a narrative? So I got a little dark with it, and I decided to make it go from the viewpoint of the apple. So, because I was trying to channel like what would a 5th grader do, and 5th graders, you know, they don't like to be all sunshine and rainbows. So then I have it so now auto publishes on Google, and it plays for you. Right, and then it starts getting into the whole process, the journey of the apple and where it goes. And I just have this set on 1 slide a second. And what I did on these, so they'd last longer, is I duplicated the slide. So I have the same slide like for 2 times. So it lasts a little bit longer on the screen so you could read it. Really, what I would love to do with this project is I would like to do this with Screencastify, where I'm actually saying all this text, right? And I'm actually saying it out loud for my students. And this would kind of be my model project. And then they'd then create their own, like for another body system. Okay? But again, this is entirely made with Google Slides. And every image that I used on here was one that is common source. So you don't, all of it copyright, all of that. So, all right. So stop motion's a lot of fun. There's also, and that's the how-to, that's how I learned. I literally, Sam Patu put out a blog post on how to do it, and I read his blog post, and that's what taught me how to do it. There's also great apps. So on my iPad, I have one called Stop Motion Studio, which is great. You can import images. You can also take photos with it. And then if Doink has an animation one that does like a stop motion with drawings and figures. So on iPads, those are great apps to use. And then green screen. So I actually brought my green screen here today so that hopefully some of you will play around with it a little bit. The reigning champ of the green screen app universe is Doink. It is just simple to use. You can give it to a kid and they will figure it out in 5 seconds. You can do photos and video with it. It's just super easy. You get 3 layers, so there's not too much going on, which I think helps with students because otherwise they get overwhelmed in the choice land. And so I have that here for us to hopefully play with today. Brian O'Donnell again, he did a blog post on how to make a green screen kit that he actually has teachers check out, and so you can read his blog post about like all the stuff that he puts into it to get an idea. I've also seen people paint pizza boxes green, and that becomes like a little studio that they use little figures and action figures on, things like that make it super easier. Or even a green manila envelope is great. If you are allowed to paint your classroom, painting like some of your cabinets green makes an easy green screen, right? Space that you normally can't use. If not, like for me, I just had my green screen tacked up behind the projector screen, and we would just bunch it up when we didn't need it and then let it down when we needed it. I've seen people put it on curtain rods, so it comes out when they need it, gets put away when they don't. It's another article on top 10 tips for green screen, and then there's a bunch of other stuff. Doink has a great blog where they curate stuff as people share their ideas that they used it for, so you feel free to explore that today and kind of see what you could do with your green screen. And then finally, the epic, the end piece, if your students can handle it, video and film. For iOS, iMovie is amazing. It's free. It's on every device. You really can't beat it. The trailer template is also a great place to start with your students because it tells them they just have to fill in the blanks. It's a template. They type their text in. They put the shot they want here, type more text, put the shot they want there. So it's a great intro to filmmaking for students. And they don't have to really worry about trying to figure out how to piece it all together. For iOS and Android, I use WeVideo, and I love it. Their free version's great. It's limited. You only get 5 minutes of video for their free version. Their paid version is wonderful. It has a green screen part in it as well, and you can do multiple layers. It's on par with iMovie at this point. So what I like to do is if you go to, and I believe they're actually here, so if you talk to them, they'll give you like a free trial period, and you make amazing movies with it. So I highly recommend that. The other thing that districts do is for, they make a bucket, and you can actually transfer like who has the active account. So like if your kids want to do a film project for a month, then they can give you the access codes, and then when they're done, the district kind of takes it back, and then they can give it to another class. So what's nice is you don't have to get one for everyone. You just get like, you know, whatever big size bucket you need for your district, like 100 or 200, and then you just dole them out as they're needed and take them back when you're done. But WeVideo is really fun, and there is a free version that you can play with. Last but not least, when they make their projects, please don't forget to share with an authentic audience. That's the biggest part of it, right? So social media is great. Class websites, if you have one. What's nice with those is then you can limit who can see it a lot of times. So if you're worried about privacy protection stuff, there are a lot of film festivals. CapCUE hosts one. There's a bunch of other ones, especially in like the Bay Area and like up here in Sacramento area, and then LA does a bunch of them. And then also class podcasts. So if your kids do want to get into storytelling, having them maybe put out a class podcast, like once a week, someone shares one of their stories that they made with audio. Storytelling content areas. So these are some of the ideas I've seen. Again, this is just a starting place. You guys are the wealth of knowledge, so I highly recommend talking with one another and discussing. But for science, I've seen them show different scientific processes, the different experiments and labs, and kind of creating a story around that. Public service announcements. For math, cooking videos. Real life word problems, so that whole like 600 watermelon thing, like actually doing that with like stop motion can be a lot of fun. And then real life application of math concepts. Social studies, I'm just saying, like, have you heard of Hamilton? Like, best example of taking an informational text and turning it into a narrative that has just taken over the world. That type of thing, right? Telling the story of a famous historical figure. And then, I mean, history in general. History is stories, right? So really embracing that part of it and getting your kids excited about the story aspect of history. PE, how-to for different sports and their rules. Exercise videos, bonus points if they wear decade-relevant outfits. So like 80s exercise, super fun. Dance unit, like have your kids make a music video instead of having to learn, you know, the Macarena for the 500th time. ELA, interview a family member and tell their story, really finding out where they come from, where their family's from. Opinion battles, so kind of like rap battles, but like an opinion battle. Make grammar fun, like anything you can do to make grammar fun, because that's the worst part of ELA. Reading, book trailers are a lot of fun. I also like having them create sequels and fan fiction. So having them talk about like what would happen next. And then also like a character biography. So kind of like the origin story of a character in a book or a novel that they really like. So just some ideas. You guys, I'm sure, have tons of other ones. Another great place to start with your kids to learn about storytelling, Pixar in a Box on Khan Academy has created an entire unit around storytelling. So if you like go through their videos and kind of play around, like the intros, but it really starts, and what I love is it really talks about the revision process and why it's so important, which a lot of our students like to skip over, right? It's perfect the first time, it's fine. And they talk about why it's really important to go back and really tweak it and refine it. So that's my spiel. Again, I want to give a shout out to Ryan O'Donnell, and also John Spencer is another person I get a lot of my ideas from for this. My goal now is that we play. So I give you a lot of tools. Pick one or two. Try to create a story. Go through the struggle that your students are going to go through, because that's the only way that you're going to be able to help them out. My goal is that you guys get to play for the next 20 minutes.